It's good to see everyone. Welcome to the Alternative Approaches track. I am Beth Lawson. I'm the CEO of the local mental health authority in Lubbock. We go by Star Care Specialty Health System, Lubbock Regional MHMR Center. By any other name, we support whoever needs us. So I think it's wonderful that they asked me to moderate the Alternative Approaches track because everything we do is an alternative approach. There ain't no day that happens for us that's like the one before it or the one next to it. So thank you for being here. I have the esteemed honor of introducing our first speaker. Jay Wooten is the Chief Public Defender out of Galveston County. In the Mental Health Public Defender's Office. He has ties to Lubbock. I just learned that the regional PDO started out in Lubbock. We call it the LPDO, so I didn't know really that acronym, which is funny because I know all the acronyms. But we're here to hear a little bit from him about how to respond to people who are unhoused, uncooperative, experiencing anosognosia. I mean, like, it's all in a day's work for us. So I am very, very eager to hear from Jay and to hear some new and exciting ideas about how to help people in our area, and I know you will too. So help me welcome Jay Wooten.
Okay. I was going to drink that. What if I told you that John the Baptist was alive but not well in Galveston County? I'll say it again. John the Baptist is alive but certainly not well in Galveston County. How do I know? Because I represent him. At least that's how he has introduced himself to me probably 90% of the time that I've met with him, and I've met with him a lot. I'm here to talk to you about him, and I'm referring to him as John the Baptist because, frankly, I'm trying very hard not to say his name. He is one of the things that led me here, led me to this stage today, because I'm here to tell you that I'm his lawyer and I am failing him. And I don't mean a D, I mean a big fat F, as his mental health attorney. Now, as his regular attorney, I'm killing it. I'm the greatest defense attorney in the world. I get all his cases dismissed. You know, every 6 months or so, we get an evaluation on him. It's always incompetent. And I go over and I talk to the DA's office, and they dismiss his case. And he walks out of the jail a free man. I'm like, 17-0. So I'm killing it, right? Until he's back less than a month later. So let me give you some context about where I'm coming from. So back in, say, 2019-ish, Judge Wayne Mallier, the mental health judge in Galveston County, wrote a grant, and they started a mental health public defender's office. Now in Galveston, they wanted it to be for misdemeanors, which was fine with me because I think that's where you can do the most good anyway. So we grabbed people who used to go through the revolving door, 3 days in court cost, and then on the way out, here's a slip of paper, please go to the Gulf Coast Center, please go to the Gulf Coast Center. And they're dropped in the parking lot as they go by. No connection to service. So we grab those people, we get them off the jail docket, we get them out on a mental health bond, and if they go to 2 consecutive appointments with a provider and they follow the treatment and take their medicine and it's a non-violent, non-DWI case, a lot of times we get those dismissed to the tune of almost 60%. So for that population, we're doing a pretty good job. We could do better, but we're doing a pretty good job. But then there's this group of people, high utilizers. We call them the all-stars. People call them frequent flyers. Whatever you want to refer to them as, I think you know them. What I will tell you is Mr. Baptist, he represents one typical person I have. There's another typical person. I'll call him Mr. Sure. And the reason why is because when I talk to him, he always responds to me and says, sure, sure, sure. I say, are you going to stay at the Gulf Coast Center if we drop you off there? Sure, sure, sure. Are you going to not sneak out when the caseworker stays and waits for you to be taken back at the Gulf Coast Center? Sure, sure, sure. Now, he is sure about certain things. He's sure that he's not mentally ill. I'm sure he has anosognosia. He's sure also, and I mean he's very sure, that he does not want any mental health treatment. The last time that we had an interaction with him, my caseworker took him out, got him out of jail. He took him out. He blew right past the county car, didn't even get in it this time, and then disappeared for briefly. Now, my duty as his defense attorney may seep into my interpretation of what happened next. I believe he went immediately to a used bicycle store and bought a bicycle because we saw him riding a bicycle moments later going down Broadway. Why he chose a girl's bike, I don't know. But these people, this group of people, is what brought me here, because I reached out and said, hey, you know what would be great is if we could get a bunch of experts up there and I could go to the JSMH and see a presentation on this to learn what to do. And here I am. All right, so let's go, if I can make this happen, to the back of their baseball cards. All right. Now, there's two different kinds of people in this room. There are people who don't work with this group who are looking at these numbers and they're going, oh my God. And there are people who work with this group who are going, yeah, it seems low. And it's true, because this is what we're dealing with all the time. And now, you know, they cycle through. You're going to hear that word. If this was a drinking game, you'd drink when I said cycle through. So, and you might ask yourself, well, you know, these people come through, and they keep coming through, and they keep coming through. What's the big deal? You know, maybe it's like going to rehab. We know that somebody has to maybe go 7 or 8 times before it takes, right? So what's the problem? Well, here's what I will tell you. This is my experience. There's 2 probable outcomes to the people that cycle through. And they're represented by both these 2 gentlemen that I talked to you about. The first thing, of course, you know this, they're going to catch a felony. All right? They're just going to catch a felony. It's going to happen. Mr. Sure caught a felony, and we don't do felonies, so I don't know exactly what happened. But I do know he's doing 2 to do. And, you know, the fact that he's in TDC, which is no place for someone with serious mental illness, that's on me. Had I been able to help him the 9 times that I represented him before he caught the felony, maybe he wouldn't be in TDC. The next outcome is that something bad happens to them. Mr. the Baptist, about 1.5 years ago, got hit by a car while walking up and down Broadway. He's in the hospital for 8 months. Yeah, by the way, he has those numbers I showed you. That's with an 8-month layoff. Luckily, he made it back to the street. He fully recovered. We had a lady who came to us almost immediately and was my client continuously. She was a pistol. She would barge into our office and say, give me something to eat, give me something to drink, and it better not be water. We lost her about 2 years ago. She died of complications of injuries she sustained when she was attacked out on the streets. So now that I've brought everybody down, so I said, hey, you know, let's figure out what can be done. Like I said, I reached out. And Galveston County has responded. We have a couple of new programs coming online, and you're going to hear about that. And then I started thinking, well, maybe it would be nice to know what's going on across the state, because not everybody has the same resources. So I decided, and it kind of helped that I know some people in these counties, about talking to people what they're doing in Galveston or what we're going to do, what they're doing in Travis County and what they're doing in Harris County. And remember, if Galveston has 15 to 35 of these people all the time at this population, then if you're in a county, you have some of these people. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer. So the three people I talked to, number one, Christy Dobbs-Perez, who is all roads in Galveston and mental health lead to Christy Dobbs-Perez. She's awesome. I call her like every 20 minutes. She's going to be administering one of the programs we're talking about. And then also Melissa Shearer, who for almost 20 years has been doing this good work in Travis County. And I copied everything that she does in starting my program. And finally, Barbara Drumheller, who is running the mental health division at a PD office where, let's be frank about it, it's, with its population and its geographic size, it could be a small country. So I wanted to go immediately to the question, which I think is a decent question if you're going to talk about this. Who are the high utilizers? All right? And I asked all three of these ladies. By the way, I did a little 60 Minutes thing. I think I'm Mike Wallace sometimes. And so we Zoomed and we recorded. And of course, I got 1,800 hours worth of video. And I had to cut it down. But here's what Barbara said to this question.
From the defense perspective, I would say that what we see in this group are people who repeatedly show up in our county courts with usually low-level charges like trespass, criminal mischief. Sometimes we have caregiver assaults, kind of Class A assaults, and it's sometimes theft, and it's repeated, right? So there are folks that that come through again and again and again to where my public defenders, my mental health specialists recognize them, know them, have represented them in the past. And, you know, often they're people who have either been evaluated for competency in the past or maybe have not yet gotten to that point, but we expect they will.
Okay, so I think you're getting the feel for what kind of talk this is going to be. This isn't your grandfather's or your dad's talk. I'm not the guy with the answers. I'm looking for the answers. I'm not Professor Shannon. I'm not Floyd Jennings, who one time in a prior life, I had a Capitol, and oh my God, it was a mess. Somebody had been declared incompetent, 20 years ago and never restored, et cetera, et cetera. Somebody said you could call Floyd Jennings up. I was like, how are we going to talk to that? Answered on the first ring, talked to us for an hour, set us straight. And I don't think he ever really knew who we were. I don't think he cared. Yeah, I'm not that guy. I'm looking for the answers. So I want to make sure you understand that I'm just laying this out and I'm learning. And by the way, it's funny because as I'm hearing these videos, I'm still picking things up. So I'm learning along with y'all. Now, they say that any good talk has a quote. So I thought I need a quote. So here we go. Because everybody, if you went through all this video, like I said, it's cycling. And by the way, Mr. Sure, he's cycling. So anyway, that is the deal. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? So I think this is an obvious next question. And Melissa Shearer, here's what she said to that.
For most of the folks that are the highest utilizers and that are cycling, they're cycling because they don't fit into the services that we have in the community. A lot of them have anosognosia. They do not realize that they are sick or that they are as ill as they are. And they just really want to be normal, like most people want to be. And it's hard for them to access services because all of the services are voluntary and person-centered. And so while that's a great thing, you want to do things that people want to do, but if the person doesn't have the insight to know what is out there, what deficits that they might be struggling with, how they could be helped, then it's really hard. And with that cycling, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of rejection, there's a lot of just distrust that begins to develop within all of these different systems. And so it becomes harder and harder to try to help people through systems. And really the folks that are the highest utilizers that I work with, those are the folks that are so unwell that they cannot frequently get through the processes, like to get Social Security disability, to get Medicaid, to get things that they need, to get through housing processes, getting all the appointments that you need to get through. And so they need a whole lot more care and walking through and walking with the person through all of the systems than what we fund in our state has to offer.
I mean, it's really very difficult with this group of people, even when you have the ACT team, even when they're assigned one person, still very difficult. And the thing is as you continue to take them places and try to get them to do things and push them, you don't want to ever get to where we were before, with the asylums and things like that, because we know that doesn't go well. Plus, it takes away free will. So these are really hard. I want to stress that the high utilizer group is that essay at the end where you can get extra credit on the exam, right? It's hard. It's hard to figure out. So I want to talk a little bit about the criminal justice system. It doesn't work that well for these people. Obviously, they do end up in the criminal justice system. However, what we're trying to do more and more, and once again, I'm talking from a helicopter view, what we're trying to do more and more is keep them out of the criminal justice system. And of course, that's our first thought. Under the doctrine of don't start none, won't be none, we have diversion, okay? And diversion is definitely, and by the way, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but what I want to point out to you is that diversion looks different across every county that I looked at. We have a wellness center starting that you're going to hear about on the 15th in Galveston, okay? Harris County has one. Lots of places have that. I also want to take a minute to tell y'all that I had to cut a lot of subjects out. I want to make sure I'm not in any way putting down MDRT or multidisciplinary response teams or ERCOT or anything like that. Lots of counties have it, and I think that really does help. And by the way, I stuck my toe in just for a second in the AOT pool, and it was very hot, and I pulled my foot out, and I found out very quickly that could be not just a talk in and of itself. And by the way, there was an excellent one yesterday. And if you, I think you can go back and watch these, so please do that. Go back and watch that one. That one was great. But I just couldn't put it in here because you would be here forever. So I want to point out that I cut this down to just a few things so you can see overall kind of what's going on. All right, so let's talk about some of the different, or hear about some of the different diversion situations that we have in different counties. Like this is Harris.
The county started the diversion program some years back. The officer has the option to take them to the Ed Emmett Diversion Center, which is a residential facility located, pretty close to downtown, and without filing charges or pursuing it as a criminal matter. Give that person an opportunity to connect with services and get diverted into a temporary residential facility.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your diversion center. Do you know how big it is? How many beds or people it can handle?
Yeah, so the facility itself actually houses 3 different programs. The jail diversion program has 36 beds in it. We also have a jail reentry program in that facility, which is another 20 beds. I mention that because it's often used in county court cases later on, sort of post-charge, as an option to get people to that same facility. And then it also houses a 3rd program on the civil side, a hospital-to-home program.
And now let me introduce you to Christy, who's going to tell you about the Wellness Center that we're starting in Galveston on the 15th.
Gulf Coast Center and Galveston County are partnering together to open the Galveston County Mental Health Wellness Center. And that is going to be an emergency observation unit paired with a crisis respite unit, which will be a point of psychiatric emergency kind of drop-off for law enforcement. So when they are encountering individuals in the community and they believe that it's a mental health issue, if they do not absolutely have to take this individual to the jail for some reason, they can potentially bring them to the wellness center and where they will be assessed and triaged and provided stabilization in one of those beds.
How many beds are we talking?
So there, on the emergency observation unit side, there will be 12 beds. I believe 9 of them are 48 to 72 hour hold beds, and 3 of them are like 23-hour stabilization type beds. And then on the crisis respite side, there will be an additional 12 beds.
So, sounds great. And it is. So I'm not here to poke holes on anything, but I do have some thoughts. There's 3 possible problems to me, boots on the ground guy, with diversion centers. First off, and I think Barbara talks about this a little later on, the people they pick up, they don't have to necessarily be on board to go, but they have to not be not on board to go. There you go. So, and when I say that, I mean, if you're thinking about the people I'm thinking about, if they're in the back of a patrol car, and by the way, you can't apply logic. You can't say, why wouldn't you want to go to, sometimes they don't want to go to the Salvation Army or the Gulf Coast Center or St. Vincent's or a million different places. I've had people lie to me and say, I've been banned from that place. They just don't want to go to that particular place. If they're in the back of a patrol car and they're on their way to the wellness center and they don't want to go to the wellness center, they can figure out a way to go to the jail instead. Okay? Now, I don't think that's going to happen a lot, but it is something to think about. Can you imagine an officer in good faith saying, listen, he wouldn't quit banging his head until I said I would take him to the jail and not to the wellness center. Those things happen. So we have to work on those. I do think that out in our program, we have to talk it up, and we will. But you have to talk it up. You have to sell it every time you can. because it'll help a lot if they want to go. They also actually have to get there. Okay, so, and this is another reason why somebody might not want to go there in Galveston, because the wellness center is in Lamarck. Okay, our homeless people are mainly in Galveston, the city of Galveston. The jail is 0.25 miles away from where most of them are. So the police are going to have to drive past the jail, over the causeway, and another 13 or 14 miles one way to Lamarck. I know they've worked on a whole lot, and that was a great presentation earlier about making it easier to drop people, because listen, this is just human nature, right? I don't like things that are hard. I like things that are easy. You know, the police are just human. They are used to taking people right over here. Now you're asking them to go very far away. So once again, we've got to sell that. We've got to sell it to them. The police, it's just human nature. I remember when I was working in Brazoria years ago, it became, through some audit, it became clear that one JP jurisdiction was getting way more tickets filed in their precinct than any of the others. And as you can imagine, the other JPs not fond of that at all. And there were all sorts of allegations of misdoing and kickbacks and bribes and all sorts. When they looked into it, you know what it turned out to be? Coffee. This particular precinct had great coffee. Seriously, great coffee. The other precincts had government coffee. Have you had government coffee? I've had government coffee. Don't even do it. The police are human too. So we need to tell them that it's going to be an extra effort. They're going to have to make that extra effort. And then the third one, and I think it's the most important one, is it needs to solve the problem. Okay, so on Monday, one of my people is at his 7-Eleven. I mean, that is his 7-Eleven, okay? The store owner does not like him. As you're driving down Broadway in Galveston, on each side there's like 12 filling stations or convenience stores with gas. If a person sees somebody they don't like, they'll go to the next one. It's easy. You can see the next one. So the store owners, understandably don't want my client there. However, that's his 7-Eleven. All right. So if on a Monday, police gets a call, he picks him up, takes him to the wellness center on Monday. If he gets a call that he's back on Wednesday, I guarantee you he's not going back to the wellness center. He's going to jail. That's just the way it is. So once they get to that wellness center, that diversion center, and remember, we can write EDOs, that kind of thing, but there's a big gap between EDO and I'm calm and collected and I just want to go to my damn 7-Eleven. So we've got to have those wraparound services so that we can get them to some other place and carry them along to another scenario that at least takes them to a different 7-Eleven, please. Because they're just going to keep, and by the way, you don't want the police to be one and done on this. So, all right, now let's talk about diversion for the high, help for the high utilizer once they're in the system. And there's a bunch of things, and I, by the way, left off, I could have had 3 slides of all the things people are doing. But let's talk about the diversion desk, which is very cool, but I think only way you could do that is in Harris County, where you have a judge available 24, you've got a defense attorney, a prosecutor in the jail. But let's hear what Barbara has to say about it.
There is a jail diversion center there in our jail processing center, and the idea was to have it staffed with a prosecutor so that they could sort of catch those folks who maybe should have been diverted and for whatever reason weren't diverted at the scene. Any number of reasons, explain why they weren't diverted. In our diversion center is centrally located, and our county is spread out geographically over a large area. So sometimes you have a situation where It's quicker and easier for law enforcement to bring them to the jail processing center than to go to the diversion center. Sometimes you have a situation where by the time they get them all the way downtown, they've decided that they're going to go through the arrest process instead. Sometimes there's the individual themselves resist going to the diversion center. So there's any number of reasons why they would go to JPC but be somebody who maybe should have been diverted, and that was the intention of that desk, was to catch those folks.
Super cool. Okay, you brought them to the jail, but, you really should have taken them to the diversion center. So, be on your way. That would be great. But like I said, I think you need all those people and those kind of resources to pull that off. Now let's hear about a program they have in Travis County from Melissa.
So that is a fantastic program. That is for people that are found incompetent to stand trial and can be safely treated in the community. There's both a residential component for people that are unhoused, that's our highest utilizers are usually unhoused, so that they are not precluded from being in the program because they don't have a home to live in. There are some people that are in the program that are housed and can come in to the program and get their competency restoration treatment classes during the day and then go home at night. But the vast majority of people that are not competent to stand trial and are in that situation are unhoused. And so this is a 24-hour residential program where they've got nursing staff that have their meds there for them. They've got programming there. They've got 3 meals a day there. And so they have a place to reside while they're doing the treatment. It can be really helpful because it helps them to get connected to other services that they're going to need when they get out, once their case is over. So that's been a really positive program. The sort of the issues that we have, though, are that, again, the program is completely voluntary. So you do have to be stable on your mental health meds before you can get accepted to the program, because you would have to be able to comply with rules. You would have to be able to, the program would have to be able to feel that you're not going to abscond, because you can go out on passes. It's not a locked facility. And it's a lower level of care. You have to be able to self-administer your medications.
I don't know if you saw the presentation yesterday, the AOT presentation, but they were talking about tracking people. They actually made the joke of stalking them, but that's really what you kind of have to do. Because unless you're going to lock them up, and let's face it, TDC is already doing that for us, so they don't need any help there, you're going to have to keep up with them. I wish there was a way, and we're always in Galveston, always thinking, the judge, Christie, people like that, trying to figure out things to do. I wish there was a way that I could get them a phone that they wouldn't sell. And get them to sign something that says, if I give you this phone, I can use the locator and know where you are, so that we could get you to your appointments, get your medicine, get those things done. That would be great. That's not going to happen. All right, so let's talk about Galveston. This is something I'm super excited about here in Galveston.
We received a Bureau of Justice Assistance Second Chance Act grant to provide a Galveston County jail reentry program. And so we are going to provide wraparound supports and treatment to individuals exiting Galveston County Jail and who have serious mental illness and are charged with Class A and Class B misdemeanors.
And who will it target?
So our target population is individuals on the the Galveston County misdemeanor mental health docket who are charged with Class A and Class B misdemeanors, who have serious mental illness, and who score moderate to high on a risk recidivism scoring instrument.
And which one will you be using?
We plan to use the ORAS, the Ohio's risk assessment tool for misdemeanors.
And what do you feel like will be the strengths of this program, and what will be the limitations in terms of the high utilizer group?
I think the strengths of the program are that we are addressing something in a way that we haven't previously been able to do, and that we're really going to address their complex needs. So we'll wrap around them and provide them the support and the engagement that they need to stay in treatment. So even when their case is done, we're like, we're here, we didn't forget about you, let's continue treatment, let's continue to help you meet, work towards your goals, whatever those goals may be. I think the biggest limitation is that, you know, these are complex systems that we're dealing with and complex individuals. I think they have a lot of needs, and our community doesn't always have all of the resources or as robust of resources as we may need them to have in order to meet those needs. But we work our hardest, right? We do our best to try to connect them to whatever supports we can while they're with us, to hopefully help them stop getting arrested, engage in treatment, get housed, all of the things that they need to, you know, live a more healthy life that they want to live.
So I'm very excited about this. Obviously, it targets my docket. So what we're finding is, you know, the people go to a couple of appointments, and maybe we, you know, get their case dismissed, and then they'll maybe make that next appointment. But remember, my caseworkers were texting them, sometimes taking them, you know, helping them reschedule them. It's funny, a couple of years ago, somebody asked me on something, they said, if you're a solo practitioner, what would be something that you could do that y'all do by yourself? And I said, just be a caseworker. I mean, the caseworker is what's making the difference here, okay? You know, I'm not filing any cool motions that are knocking this out. Certainly not making anybody well, right? So you know, and I don't think a lot of lawyers want to hear that, but, you know, make the appointments for the guy, you know, text him, you know, maybe go give him a ride, because that's what works with us. But then, of course, once we were out of it, people started reverting back. And so this program, this jail reentry program, addresses that. And then also, really cool, is a recidivist evaluation. You know, I feel like that's something I haven't really heard much about, and I'm anxious to see how accurate it is, so that you can target the people with intense help who need it. All right, and also, we just got a grant for housing to go with that. I was on that call, and the PEF people really, really were concerned about the people that came off our docket and how it happened. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up with one long clip. I'm sorry, but it's all three ladies answering one very important question that I thought was important. And I want to tell you that I appreciate you coming, and I'll have some thank yous after that. But anyway, here was the question that I really wanted to ask them, because, you know, they're the people that know what works. They're the people that information doesn't always get up to the decision makers, right? So here's what they had to say.
I think we would have some level of permanent supportive housing for them that included on-site case management, wraparound service, medical care, all of the things that they need in like a one-stop shop, so that they, you know, could again live their best life, right? Do the things that they need to do, not have to, if money was no object, right? All those things would exist and be readily available for them, and they would be able to, you hopefully get there and thrive, and with all the supports in one place needed for them.
I think what we do is we stabilize people with our psychiatric treatment in the jail for sometimes up to 2 to 4 weeks. And then we send them to the diversion center or the jail reentry program if there's a bed available. I'd like to see that happen not in the jail. I'd like to have, if I had unlimited funding, I think these folks need a little bit longer stabilization period on an inpatient basis in a psychiatric hospital. And then I'd like step-down residential housing. We really need sort of jail diversion scaled up, like a much more beds for step-down, sort of non-lockdown, but still very supportive environment where you're checking in and out, where you have a lot more of those kinds of supports that we're talking about before you're released back to the community. So I think we need more step-down beds, more stabilization time in the psychiatric hospitals, and we also need a lot more residential substance use treatment facilities, and more substance use treatment facilities that are residential and are based on evidence-based practices. Things like contingency management, things like medicated substance use treatment, things like that.
My dream program would be a true continuum of residential care and community that folks can move through, because as we know, mental illness is, it's not static. Sometimes you're really symptomatic, and sometimes you are doing better. Sometimes you need a hospital level of treatment that's secure. And sometimes when you're better, you need maybe a step down, but you still need, a lot of residential support. And that's the piece that we're really missing. I would love to have, I would love to be able to use the ASH campus to have a system that people can move through depending on their level of care that is residential, that does have a community aspect, so that people, can have, can live, can get jobs, can do volunteer work and they're getting their treatment right there. That involves a lot of peer support. It's just not practical or realistic to think that people are going to make it in an apartment by themselves, even if it's permanent supportive housing and they've got, theoretically a team that's on site. Because some of these folks, they need a lot more than that. And it needs to be a lot more hands-on and a lot more relational in order to sort of overcome any, the barriers of folks feeling unsafe. So, as a lot of clients do, feel unsafe in systems and feel not listened to. There are communities, and I think that's what we need. Our folks need a community to live in that's safe, that's healthy, that's really supportive, and really is at the level of care that they need. We've got a lot of people that are the people that are cycling that absolutely need residential care. And a lot of them, if they had that care and had it in a community where it's maybe think of a campus setting where you can move around, you can do things that you want to do. You can be with people that want you to be there. You can be safe from drug use and other things. I think that would be the best thing that we could offer people, because that's the main problem that we have. Most of the people are unhoused. Our housing lists are years long. And even when they get housed, there's not the appropriate support, and people are, they get evicted. They deteriorate because they're still sort of alone. And being alone is a really big problem. for most people, but even more for people with serious mental health needs.
I want to thank Melissa Shearer, Barbara Drumheller, Christy Dobbs-Perez, and Rose McBride. I don't know if Rose is in here, but she did all this video work. I was super annoying to work with. Thank you so much to her. Here's my contact information. Two of these ladies are running around here. I know if you want to grab one of them and ask them questions, they'll be happy to answer them. Thank you so much.
Okay, now we can do better than that. Thank you, Jay.